he wore a White Lives Matter sweatshirt. Candace Owens, our friend, was right there with him, also photographed in a White Lives Matter sweatshirt. And then Kanye's quote here is, everyone knows, this is the quote from Kanye West, everyone knows Black Lives Matter was a scam. And I sit here and I say, if he's talking about the organization and the millions of dollars, yes, it was a scam. And if he's talking about meaning a political scam, as in this was emotion over reason that did nothing good for anyone, also true, Clay. What a reckoning BLM has had. We've been hammering the crime issue, the numbers, and just the truth behind the numbers, the policy decisions that led to unthinkable rise in crime and violence in cities all across the country, in rural areas too. It's gotten really bad. And BLM played a role in all of this. What's interesting is now you have Democrat politicians who are running from BLM right before an election. People that were putting up BLM hashtags. Remember Nancy Pelosi kneeling in kente cloth? You remember this? You remember these, these liberal elites wrapped in kente cloth, literally bending the knee, taking photos because BLM mattered so much to them. Now the Democrat Party is running scared from those three initials, from that whole movement. And Kanye West, now I know people have a lot of feelings about Kanye. He does write some very catchy tunes, but people have a lot of feelings about, I think they're catchy. But
I think Kanye is fabulously talented as a musician.
I mean, I think he's very good at what he does.
Even people who dislike Kanye West would have to acknowledge that he is, from a musical perspective, insanely talented.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't want him to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but I think he's a talented musician.
But I would feel that way about almost any musician.
Right?
I
don't trust.
I don't want Bono doing anything that running the health department either. I wouldn't. Musicians in general.
People talked about him running for president. I don't think, by the way, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs is a good choice either. So we got a whole bunch of problems. But Kanye, over the weekend? I'm trying to get the date right here. He was at a fashion show in Paris. I think that's right. Yes. Paris.
I think it was his own fashion show.
Yeah, Paris Week fashion show. I have never been invited, which is just such a slap in the face because I am all about the fashion. T-shirts, sweatshirts, yeah. But he wore a White Lives Matter sweatshirt. Candace Owens, our friend, was right there with him, also photographed in a White Lives Matter sweatshirt. And then Kanye's quote here is, everyone knows, this is the quote from Kanye West, everyone knows Black Lives Matter was a scam. And I sit here and I say, if he's talking about the organization and the millions of dollars, yes, it was a scam. And if he's talking about meaning a political scam, as in this was emotion over reason that did nothing good for anyone, also true, Clay. What a reckoning BLM has had.
Yeah, what I would say about Kanye is this. Artists in general should provoke conversation. And they should be enmeshed in some way in nuance. Because art without nuance is propaganda, right? Doesn't mean that it still can't be impressive, but art without nuance, just think about it, propaganda. And what I have seen in America is that the creative class, Buck, the people who would have been at Woodstock in the 1960s, are overwhelmingly now, the creative class, in the back pocket of big government, in the back pocket of big business. They are the least rebellious creative class that America has ever created. I mean, just think about this big hypothesis. Think about whether you, depending on your age, Woodstock, the Muhammad Alis of the world were rebels standing up against a larger power structure. Most of our artists today are more stable aspects of the existing power structure. And BLM is not a rebellious process when your deodorant company is sending you out an email saying, we stand with BLM. This is not a controversial process.
Well, it's interesting because we often hear about the threats to our democracy. And no matter how someone sounds when they say it, that's how it processes in my head.
Yes.
Because the threats to our democracy come with 3 masks, 5 Ukraine flags, and announced pronouns. It's amazing how those things all go together. You know, on the menu of the lib, you got to have Ukraine mask, vaccination needles in your Twitter profile, double mask walking outside. We all know this, right? But the people that say this, one of the challenges that I always made to the narrative of Trump is such a tyrant, an authoritarian, a fascist, the entire media was opposed to him and got more famous and more rich based upon their unhinged opposition to him. I actually spend a lot of... I'm a little strange this way. I've spent a lot of time reading about totalitarianism, specifically the Soviet Union, and I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating because it's a window into how evil in the modern world can exist at that level and exert that amount of control. And you know what's always the case, Clay? The authoritarians in the political sphere have the media and the artists and everybody else doing their bidding. Now, which side of the political spectrum does that actually apply to? It ain't conservatism.
You're exactly right. And Buck, I'll build on this. In college, I got into a totalitarian film study circle.
Did
right?
you really?
So
this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I took German films, multiple German films courses about the rise of Hitler, Leni Riefenstahl, the way that they used Hitler and the Nazis film in order to convey majesty to their cause, and also Russian cinema.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
So,
Nine?
No,
nine? Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, but our professor was a Soviet refugee who had been a child actor he was an amazing professor. He had been a child actor in these totalitarian cinemas in the Soviet Union when he was a kid. And so his thesis, and it was brilliant. His thesis was that totalitarian regimes all create the same kind of films and build off of each other. So the German, the Russian, and it really is a window into how the larger classes come to see the country and the struggle, so to speak. And let me just go back to Kanye for a sec here, Buck. And I bet there's not very many people who have watched as much Russian cinema and German cinema.
You got to give us a rec. I mean, first of all, this is a whole other.
When we come back,
I love
I'll
this
hit you
more
with,
than Civil War camp. Like you were in a totalitarian film school session. Like this is amazing.
I will hit you with this. I can already see USA Today is going to have a story like Nazi film enthusiast Clay Travis waxes eloquent on German cinema on the Clay and Buck show. Just get ready for it. But let me just hit you with this. I'll tell you a couple of movie suggestions when we come back on that old school. Let me just hit you with this. People were getting fired for saying all lives matter, for saying anything, for saying white lives matter. That was unacceptable. That was an assault. Kanye is in speaking out alongside of Candace Owen, who's also very smart. They are attacking the liberal hegemony here that you could only say Black Lives Matter and pointing out, as great artists would, like Kanye, the absurdity of some of the lines that are being drawn in our country, particularly as they pertain to identity politics. And I would say, Buck, a great artist should truly be criticized all the time because you are not pushing forward thought and challenging people's perspectives if you're only being praised by people in power.
This is one of these moments where, it's having the two of us sit here. I would assume this story, like my big thing from the story is BLM is now something that people can say was a scam. Never mind. I've been saying that it made everything worse for everybody. You see this more as an artist in Kanye breaking with the authoritarian mold of American artists, music, etc. today. Interesting. We both see this thing, and I'm like, well, this is BLM has become politically toxic, and you say this is artists actually doing what artists are supposed to do. Fascinating.
Yeah, and I would say this, too. For people out there who don't listen to Kanye's music, Kanye's early music is very religious and spiritual. And one of the things that he would say is, they say, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but you can't make a song about how much you love Jesus and have it show up on radio for airplay. And that was provocative. Kanye was willing to look at his religious faith and say, I'm going to mix this with the rap world in a provocative way, which others were not. How about Howard Stern, Buck, in New York City? Did you see the story? He went out to dinner for the first time in 2 years since March of 2020 last week
COVID
in New
broke
York
him.
City.
COVID broke him.
It
It turned him into a neurotic and in many kind of a neurotic lib, actually, is what ended up happening to him because his neuroses around COVID turned into completely absurd demands and expectations of everybody else. And you got a mask and you got a vax and you got to do all these things. Some people just can't actually handle it. I mean, the truth is it is both freeing for some and anxiety producing for others. We're all going to die. So stop worrying
and Buck,
so much.
I think about that. Maybe it'll change when I get older. I mean, you're a super young man, so you probably don't think about death at all.
As I age and get more wisdom.
I do not fear death at all. And I only in the context of I want my kids to grow up, and I want them to, and have a dad and all those things. But like the idea that I would ever find myself in a situation like Howard Stern, where you effectively turn off your life for over 2 years because you're afraid. Now, leave aside the fact that he probably would have been fine if he got COVID, and he may have gotten it anyway. But that you would be so afraid of a virus that you would basically give up 2 years of your life. It's just so pathetic and sad to me, and especially for a guy. This kind of ties in with the point about Kanye earlier. I think Howard Stern would consider himself to be a rebel, yet he is now a rebel who agrees with big business, big government.
Yeah, works. He makes like $100 million a year. Works for a rebel.
In his radio career, I think he would have identified himself as a rebel in that he would say things on the radio that others would not. And my point on this now is he's like Dr. Fauci. Like he has turned himself into a pedantic, boring, the man. He's turned himself into the man. And it's kind of pathetic.
Yeah, of course. He's like a nagging old woman going around saying, "Why aren't you triple masked?" It's enough. Yeah. Like he needs to stop. And it's sad that somebody would allow this to happen to them. But there are a lot of people out there still, man. Masks are back in my building. Everyone in my building knows not to tell me to wear them, but they're back in my building for a lot. Not mandatory, but a lot of people are wearing them. I mean, I am seeing some double maskers. I still, to this day, we got to start making some T-shirts that say "I triple mask," just to wear them around so people can see like I'm better than you maskers because even the double maskers don't take it seriously enough.
I couldn't handle when I got on my flight to New York City the number of people on Wednesday from Nashville to New York City that had masks on when they got on the plane. I think I would have gone crazy if I had lived in New York or LA over the last couple of years. I mean, I would have moved, as many people did, but I would have gone insane, I think, if I had been in New York. I don't know how you didn't go insane, Buck. You lived in an apartment in a high rise. I know your family's there, so that probably helped, but it's crazy. I
mean, basically the French Bulldog and cooking and Netflix was what kept me and doing at that point 5 hours of 5 hours of solo content a day from the desk. Which,
you had a job, so that helps. We had the luxury of being able to say exactly what we think too. But I think if I had a regular job and I'd been in New York City, I think I would have gone banana land crazy.